Over the weekend, I posted 2 videos of me doing the bloomburrow arenadirect, and I won 3 boxes in 2 runs. This is hot off the heels of winning 2 Ninja Turtles collector boosters in 3 runs, which, by the way, got delivered yesterday. But not everyone was impressed. Here's a YouTube user who will remain anonymous, who writes to me, "You prove that MTG is a scam, because you did everything wrong and you still won a box." And that really got me thinking, to what extent am I on a purely luck-based hot streak? And to what extent have I actually had a shift in my play that is allowing me to perform at a higher level in these events? So in this video, I want to share the things that I actually am doing differently to try to help all of us win more boxes. And I think I'm actually in a really nice position to do this, because look at my win rate chart over the last few months. For most of my playing career over the last year and a half, I was like starting out as like a 60%, and then as I played more events, maybe going closer to a 50% win rate player in arena directs, which is not good, right? If you have a 50% win rate, you are going to very rarely rattle off 7 wins before your second loss. But then over the course of the last month and a half, I've gone from a 50% win rate in my last 10 events up to a 75% win rate. In the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Arena Directs, I was number 11 on the 17 lands leaderboard by win rate. That means of everyone using the 17 lands client, I was the 11th most winning at Ninja Turtles Arena Directs. I do want to shout out people like Paul Cheon, who did twice as many events as me and achieved a similar win rate, or just Loloman and Honey, who had an unreal similar win rate with 10 times the events. So the moment Loloman posts a video on how exactly they are achieving that, you have my permission to hop over there. But for now, hopefully this video will do. And my hope is to give you a concise list of takeaways that I know I'm doing differently at my 75% win rate compared to my 30% win rate days. Obviously, my win rate is going to revert to the mean soon enough, but realistically, I think I was probably a 45% win rate player in these events earlier, and I think I'm now maybe more like a 55% win rate player. So realistically, I think these tips can boost your win rate by a few percent. My first tip sounds kind of dumb, but I actually think it's deep. Don't give up. So here's my 17 lands logs of my last 8 runs. In 4 of them I trophied, and in actually 5 of them I trophied. That top bloomburrow one won me a box. So really it's 5 trophies out of 8. And in the other 3, I fought it out really hard. Now I want you to take the first 8 that we were just looking at and compare it to the previous 8. There are a few different things that stick out to me, but I think the most important one, if you look at these top 4 cells that I've highlighted here, look, 4 of those runs are on the same day. That's one day when I sat there, started with an 0-2 run, then did a 1-2 run. How good are you feeling at that point? Then did a 3-2 run, making back some of my gems, and then another 3-2 run. And by the way, I'm someone who posts my bad runs as well as my good ones. You can go back and you can watch me in almost all of those runs. And I'll tell you what I know from living inside my own head. The common feature is they did not all need to be 0-2s, 1-2s, or 3-2s. At some point in each of those videos, you can probably pinpoint the moment when I just gave up. So a simple suggestion, if you are ever buying a bullet right after you lose, is just don't do that. If you are just Loloman or Honey, who appear to have infinite stamina and their win rate is just completely unaffected by doing 10 runs in a day, awesome. That's awesome for you. Most of us, speaking for myself, aren't built like that. If I do 3 runs in a day, I can see how much I'm playing worse. And especially if one run goes badly, that starts a domino effect where every run after that goes badly. This might not be relevant for you if you are someone who is like scraping together the gems to just do even 1 or 2 runs of these. So you might be thinking more than 1 run a day. Like, who the heck has that kind of gems, right? I would say it actually is still relevant for you if there are really proximate arena directs, like one weekend and one the next weekend, and you had a really bad beat in the last one. Maybe sit the next one out if you're not feeling emotionally 100% ready to play your best. I actually want to share with you a moment from yesterday's video where I 100% fully gave up on the match when I absolutely should not have. I was 1-1, felt like I didn't have a good pool, felt like I didn't have a good deck. And not to make excuses for myself, but completely misread the card that I've highlighted here, Caretaker's Talent, 1.5 years after last playing with it. And I just completely counted myself out of the match. I guarantee during the thought process that you're about to hear that I was not making good game decisions. So I'll let me from yesterday show you what that looks like. What the heck? Creatures you control get +2/+2. No, it's not creatures you control get +2/+2. It's creature tokens you control get +2/+2, and they have no creature tokens. Completely irrelevant card. That's so awesome that you have that. Then I get a land. Yeah, no, I mean, just wasn't our day. Like, when they played turn 1 Pop Hatch Recruit, but then they went Salvation Swan, Jackdaw Savior. Yeah. Not that rarity is everything, of course, but rare against my no rares deck. So you can hear the thought process, right? My opponent played a really good rare on turn 1. They have way more rares than I do. This Anthem card they played almost seems too good to be true. But thankfully, and here's one big part of why I did manage to win a box yesterday, I caught myself in that thought process after, I will admit, about a minute of talking about how I should have built my deck differently. And then ultimately I kind of stabilized myself, refocused on the game, and figured out how to win. And here's how that happened. Creature, oh, it's creature tokens you control. Whoa, I've given up way too soon. So yesterday I had the presence of mind to do that because I'm coming off a really nice streak in Ninja Turtles, and then I had just won 2 boxes of bloomburrow the day before with a clean 7-0. In that emotional state, it's a lot easier to talk yourself into refocusing on winning and kind of see yourself as someone who could potentially win. If you're on arenadirect buy-in number 4 for the day after 3 tough losses, that is a lot harder. Something else that stands out to me about the runs that did not go well on that really bad day for Lorwyn, look at the color combinations that I was running. Just visually scan my last few successful runs. You know, Boros, Golgari, Orzhov, Golgari. Okay, Golgari was really good in Ninja Turtles. Then Orzhov, is it? You know, I'm playing pretty balanced colors, I would say. In Lorwyn, why was I so obsessed with playing white, white, white? Okay, not white, 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 white. Almost every single run, I seemed to be doing some kind of aggressive white build. Okay, this one has kin binding and Erdu, but a lot of them didn't. So that takes me to my second point, which is know the data. Something I've been doing in the last 2 events, bloomburrow and Ninja Turtles, is this kind of video that you see right there, winning a box with data. In these videos, I've been digging deep into the stats on what are the color pairs that you want to be in. How are those color pairs different from my expectations as someone who drafts a lot? What uncommons do you really want to be playing? And again, how does that differ from the list of uncommons you're used to being good if you're someone who drafts a lot? Now, you can go overboard with preferences. If you show up, look at your sealed pool, and you really strongly want to be a specific color pair, and that's not actually the strongest color pair in your sealed pool, obviously that can sabotage you. So you can take this too far. But I really think that showing up with preferences on event day, knowing what I want to be doing, if it's possible, if it's facilitated by my sealed pool, that really has helped me to identify the best potential in my pool. Which brings me to my next point, which is part of knowing the data is respecting sealed as a format, as its own format, and not just a more constrained kind of draft. I pretty much always thought of sealed as you're trying to build a draft deck, you just have fewer chances to do it. Like, it's kind of like you're trying to build a draft deck where your cards are picked for you, but they picked a lot of cards and they picked them randomly. The reality is when there are more cards and they're random, it's just a different environment. It's pretty similar. It has a lot of overlap, but there really are meaningful differences. I'll give you 2 examples. Here's an example where it was a nice advantage for me that I knew the data. The card between present me and future and past me, who by the way is making a totally awesome expression right now, is Bandit's Talent. If you don't know what it does, that's okay. But it's one of these discard effects. There's often like a black common or uncommon discard that is just way, way better in sealed than it is in draft. And the reason, there are kind of 2 reasons. The first is it's just a little bit too slow for draft. In draft, spending all of your mana on turn like 1, 2, 3, 4, this really, really matters. So if you're spending turn 3 on something that doesn't affect the board, then it's just one step too ineffectual for modern draft. And in particular, you are investing mana in a card to get rid of cards that your opponent did not have to invest mana in. So it's just too much tempo to be giving away. The other reason I think is that the cards that are left in people's hands by like turn 5, turn 6, they tend to be maybe on average a little bit better in sealed, just because in draft it's easier to get fixing and empty your hand. and you might have fewer bombs. In sealed, people have more bombs, they're trying to play all of them, but they might have kind of stricter requirements to get it out of their hand. So you might actually get better cards out of their hand with these discard effects. Anyways, all that to say, Bandit's Talent is a card I would basically not consider playing in draft pretty much ever. It's hard to imagine the deck, maybe a really, really controlling deck, but it's a total edge case. In sealed, I knew from the data that it turned out to be quite strong in this environment. It just plays well in bloomburrow sealed. So I ran it in my deck. And then this is actually the game that won me a box. Okay, my hand is totally bonkers, but I just luckily drew Zorlene and Osteomancer Adept. The point is, I actually had just chosen to spend multiple turns leveling up my Bandit's Talent, which forced my opponent into a really awkward situation where they pretty much couldn't play out their cards without giving me a huge advantage. So Bandit's Talent took a card out of their hand and then kept 2 more cards locked in their hand, which was kind of a net 3-for-1 in the game. And just more than that, a long-term prohibition on the opponent emptying their hand, which just gave me that incremental advantage that I needed to get those sickeningly good draws of Zorlene and Osteomancer Adept and completely took over the game. Otherwise, I think my opponent had a much better chance of catching up with me by just putting stats on the board before I could get my really good Graveyard Engine online. So the point is, I recognize this card as being specifically good in this format. Whereas before, I probably would have looked at it, and honestly, back in February 15, when I did those bad Lorwyn runs, I didn't have that in mind of what are the good cards for sealed specifically. What's better in sealed than it is in draft? And I'm not just here to show you things I did well or, toot my own horn. I'll give you an example from Lorwyn sealed. So this card, it is actually a low-key bomb in Lorwyn sealed. Stratosaur, 3/5 for 5. When it enters, target creature gains flying until end of turn, and you can land cycle it. It turned out to just line up amazingly in the sealed format. 3 power in the air was really good. The format was slow enough that you could spend 5 mana on a kind of understated or awkwardly statted creature, and probably the land cycling was also good, and hopping one of your other bombs was also really good. Just everything about it was good. If you look at draft, the win rate of the same exact card was a bazillion points lower. It was a B- in sealed. It's a C- in draft. Now, you should always take these just game in hand win rates with a grain of salt, obviously, but that really does tell you the story of the card. In draft, people thought you really just shouldn't be doing that. It's maybe an okay payoff in the elementals deck if you have a bunch of enablers for it. But overall, it was just not what you wanted to be doing in Lorwyn draft. So if you did not specifically look into what is doing well in Lorwyn sealed, and that could be by looking at the win rate data, but it could also be by watching Loloman or watching Paul Cheon, right? See what they're doing that's working. Look at the trophy decks on 17 lands. See, if you notice a bunch of them are containing Stratosaurs, hey, maybe there's something there. If you did not look at that, then you might not think to run this card. And I've just looked back at the pool for one of those runs that I showed you where I did 4 runs in the same day. This was my 3rd run that day. And notice I have double Stratosaur, which is actually a very, very strong card in the format. Given that win rate, you should be thinking of Stratosaur as a pull into blue. It is a reason to play blue. And if you have 2 of those, that's your win condition for a grindy blue deck, honestly, almost. And on top of that, I've got Glamour Gifter, I've got Tamifel Rhine Speaker, Glen Elendra's Answer. I just have like a pretty sweet blue lineup here. So what did I play? Goblins. And you can actually see this video online where I had the Goblin Sharpshooter, I believe, and the double Champion of the Weird, and I went like 0-2 or something. So the good news is you do not have to look that stuff up yourself. I'm planning before every Arena Direct from now on to post one of these data deep dives. So if you're subscribed to my channel, you'll get an easy 10 to 20 minute video where I tell you the main things that you need to know about what's good, what's working in the format, and importantly, how it differs from draft. And the reason I pitch my videos like that is because I know now that that's how I screwed up. On February 27, at one of those lowest points, so my win rate was in the tank in these events, a big part of the problem is I was not respecting sealed as a format, and I didn't know, you could say know the data, or I didn't know the info on what is actually working in sealed. Okay, and then last piece of advice. And again, I know this sounds kind of trivial. It's not like really concrete information, like play this card. We'll get into that level of detail the day before the Arena Direct unlocks in my data deep dive videos. Here, this is general advice, and I think everyone needs to hear this one more time. Use your timer. It's a resource that you have in the game. It costs you nothing to think before you make your decisions. If you're LSV, you play naturally very quickly. You also have 30,000 hours of practice playing Magic. You've top 8'd multiple Pro Tours or whatever. Okay, maybe you're going to make the right decision in a Winabox event very quickly. For me, I do better and I win more when I take my time and think through the consequences of whatever I'm doing. The number of times in high stakes events that I've made a snap decision purely on intuition and then just kicked myself because if I'd thought for 3 seconds, I would have seen what the issue was. I mean, I don't even want to think about it, but it's a lot. This is also one of the major pieces of advice that they give to children who are very good at chess. Kids notoriously make really, really fast moves in chess. And one of the biggest level ups that you can have as a young chess player is realizing that you can gain win rate by utilizing the resource of the clock, not just viewing it as an impediment or something unnecessary. It is a tool for you to use. So I'm going to show you a ridiculously complicated situation that came up yesterday that actually I am still thinking about. What you have to know is the opponent has 0 cards in hand. I am at 8 HP and I've been getting beaten down this whole game. Valley Rockcaller, when it attacks, it drains you for life equal to the number of creature types that touch black that they control. So this thing can just do damage without even connecting, and it's a 1/3 menace. Ravine Raider is a 1/1 menace on the left there that for 2 mana they can pump. And then they have 2 Roughshod duos, which are basically just 3/2 vanilla in this situation. I have a 1/3 double striker and a 2/4, and then I have this bite spell that gives +1. So why is this a complicated situation? I'm going to reason through in real time, and look, I'm not proud of every step that my mind takes here. This is why it's an illustration of why you have to use your clock, because of the number of wrong decisions that I almost made. If you want to think through this puzzle on your own, so 1/3 menace, a 1/1 menace that can pump its way up to a 4/4, 1 pump at a time, and then 2 3/2 vanillas. You have a 1/3 double striker and a 2/4. Your opponent has nothing in hand, and you have a +1/+0 pump spell. If you want to think through what to do, pause the video because I'm about to tell you my current thinking on it. Okay, so basically it's a really, really awkward situation because I really want to give my Strike Force +1, right? So first of all, the 2/4 can block a 3/2, right? 2/4 blocks a 3/2, and you know, that's fine. That's just simple blocking logic, right? Then I really want the Strike Force to survive the combat. By the way, I only have 1 red source and I have 3 red cards in my hand. So I really want to play the Rabbit Gnaw right now. I need to draw another red source if I'm going to be able to double spell. So I'm trying to get resources out of my hand 1 turn at a time. So I really want to play the Rabbit Gnaw. That's another thing. So I want to put the Strike Force in front of a Roughshod duo, but I don't want to trade. I want my Strike Force to survive. That means that I want to put the +1 on the Strike Force so that it does its first strike damage and kills the Roughshod duo and survives the combat. But the Strike Force only has 1 power. So what can I kill with it? I can't kill the 1/3 Valley Rotcaller because the Strike Force is only going to have +1. It's going to have 2 power. Also, if I target Ravine Raider, they can just pump twice, right? And then they would survive the hit. If I shoot the other Roughshod duo, though, like pump the Strike Force, block the Roughshod duo with the Strike Force, and shoot the other Roughshod duo, then what's Waxwing Witness doing? It's supposed to be blocking one of the Roughshod duos, so I haven't actually gotten any advantage from this. Okay, so instead, do I put the Rabbit Gnaw on the Waxwing Witness and shoot the Valley Rotcaller? But then my Strike Force is going to have to trade with a Roughshod duo. And what's the Waxwing Witness doing? I guess then it's blocking a Roughshod duo. Is that better? Then Ravine Raider gets in for 4, but I'm down a Strike Force? Or is there some way, by the way, actually, Waxwing Witness cannot block Valley Rockcaller and it cannot block Ravine Raider on its own because they both have menace, right? So the only way those are going to die this turn is if they get bit. So then the other question is there any way I can bait them into losing their Ravine Raider to the bite spell? Maybe they pump 3 times, but then the issue is they can always pump that 4th time. If they could only bring it up to a 3/3, I could do that. But even if it's a 3/3 and I shoot it, in response, they can make it a 4/4. But maybe somehow I can wait until they do the last activation on the Ravine Raider. And then when the last activation is on the stack to make it a 4/4, I can shoot it with the Waxwing Witness, but then my Strike Force is dying. So let's watch me try to reason this out with lots of my thinking time cut. So Strike Force is going to shoot a Roughshod duo. Hold on. This actually doesn't make sense, does it? Waxwing Witness shoots a Roughshod duo. The thing is, This is going to kill a roughshod duo no matter what. So actually, Strike Force should shoot the Ravine Raider. They can give it plus a bunch, though. Oof, annoying. How big can Ravine Raider get? I think I'm just going to have to take the Ravine Raider. I think it's like this. Oh, you also have Menace. Annoying. So block, block. Darn it. Oh, this is so annoying. This is really annoying. So I resolve that. Resolve that. Okay, unfortunately, the Strike Force has to get traded down. Ugh, I screwed up. I was supposed to block the... No, because it has Menace, I can't do that. Yeah, this got really confusing. Okay, well, I don't want to lose my Strike Force, so let's just do this. Really confusing. I really wish I had another red. But basically, I don't want my Strike Force to die. Yeah, take a bunch of damage. Oh my goodness. So where I landed, and I was thinking about this a lot last night as well, where I think the correct play is you basically have to just say, okay, in this situation, Rabbit Gnaw is just a +1/+0 at instant speed. Not a good card, but just think of it as the bite part is irrelevant, because I think what I did is the best. But it took me a long time with a lot of like scary clicks that would have been terrible for me, like shooting Waxwing Witness into Ravine Raider when they could still pump it. I'm glad I quickly decided that that doesn't work. Eventually, I just had to accept, you know, you're not getting any advantage out of biting, but you're still supposed to just keep your Strike Force alive by giving it +1/+0. So the point of all of that is, if I hadn't used my timer, you saw how badly I would have played that. If I had just made a play on instinct, I actually tried to make several impossible plays first, and then I tried to make several incorrect plays, and then finally I arrived at the correct play, which actually ended up narrowly winning me that game, and then ultimately winning a box. Okay, so those are my 3 big takeaways. Number 1, don't give up. Number 2, if you know the information about what is good in sealed as a format, and you respect sealed for its own sake, you are starting at an advantage. And by the way, don't give up is not some trite, oh, you can do it, just keep going kind of motto. I'm specifically saying catch in yourself, pay attention to and catch the psychological process of deciding that you are not going to win and then failing to notice opportunities to win, or getting into a mindset where you are essentially setting yourself up to fail by buying into an arenadirect, building a subpar deck because you're not fully in it, or you're half thinking about how unlucky you are and how you're doomed to not succeed, and you're not spending your whole brain on maximizing your chances of winning. And a big part of that is if you're doing either more than 1 run a day, or maybe runs on adjacent weekends when you're still a little bit tilted and a little bit scarred from the last run, give yourself more space so that you're treating every arenadirect as an event that you can win. And finally, if you're not using your timer, use it. You gain nothing from making fast decisions that you'll regret. And remember that if, like me a month and a half ago, you're down in the 30% win rate category, you can always have a hot streak like I've had. And from the perch of this current hot streak, I'm definitely keeping in mind that this is temporary, and that long run 55% win rate is probably actually where I'm at. So maybe we'll all converge to that soon enough. And if you try all of that and it still doesn't work, then hey, maybe that just proves that MTG is a scam, because I did everything wrong and I still won a box.